I have to speak in English because Gikuluma is isiZulu kancane at the moment. But maybe next year I'll come back and do it in Zulu. Cool. Thank you, Bulalani, for inviting me. I've wanted to come and talk at one of these events for a long time. It's really hot in here, and I'm not going to make the time worse by talking too long, so I'm going to get through what I have to say pretty quickly. Yeah, I guess tiny bit about me. I was born in a kind of lower middle class home in the 70s, and I went to a very ordinary school. I went on to university, and I started my first business in about 1996. And what I was thinking about when I was writing this is, what is the difference between me back then and where you guys are now, or anyone in the school leavers today? And I think that, and actually someone said it earlier, is that I am a product of white privilege. I'm a product of a system that gives white men better opportunities than women, and much better opportunities than people of color, and much better opportunities than people of color who come from poor families and poor environments. And so, you know, I kind of feel like it's my responsibility and my mission to be whatever part of the change in this country I can be to fix that. So the agency that I run, it's called VML-Y&R. It is a part of a global advertising group which is headquartered in New York. We started a couple of businesses here, and eventually we sold it to these guys a few years ago, and we became part of that network. And that's kind of, in a way, like my day job. But in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about how we can use this agency and how we can use advertising to make our society better and to address the things that are wrong with our society. And even though my clients may not know that's what they're doing or that's what they're hiring, that's what we're trying to do. And I just have a 5-week-old baby, so I'm really tired. And so if I fall asleep in the middle of my presentation, you'll know why. So I started to think about, in talking about entrepreneurship, why did I get where I got to, and what did I do right, and how did I succeed? And I think there are a few things, and some of these are things that can be emulated and some can't. So I speak good English. In our economy and in our world, that turns out to be really lucky to get born into an English-speaking environment. I was connected to a community, even though I wasn't wealthy or didn't come from a wealthy family. The people that I met at school or in university are part of those kind of environments. I have friends now that are running big companies like Investec and whatever. It's easy for me, and was easier for me, to network and to get access to them. And I think it was Marinus, I think earlier, who said the same thing, is it's easier for me to go into a boardroom. It's easier for me to be trusted. You know, all of that is just luck, genetic good fortune, right? It's just lucky. And there's nothing that anyone who doesn't have that same luck can do to get that luck. So you have to do something else. You can't bank on, you can't necessarily just be fortunate, but good luck has a lot to do with successful entrepreneurship. I mean, we heard earlier on about companies like Microsoft or Facebook or whatever. It's true that these are very smart people, and it's true that they came up with clever things. But when you really listen to what they're saying, a huge part of their story ends up being good luck. And you can't manufacture good luck. So some of you might just be lucky and become billionaires. But for the rest of us, we have to work hard. You know, that's really the only alternative. So, local businesses. I think that one of the things we need to understand, I think, about our economy is that we suffer from being a third world country that, in my view, has basically been has basically been robbed twice already, right? So we were robbed by colonialism. Colonialism came in and stripped out people. It took our resources. And then in the last 40 or 50 years, we were robbed by globalization. So, you know, we have this huge export economy, but most of what we're sending out is raw materials, right? We're sending out something that we sell it for R1 and it comes back to us and costs 100 Rand by the time it comes back from the global businesses that operate in this economy. And so in my industry, in advertising, I mean, half of my business is owned by a global company, so half of my profits go back overseas. And when it comes to media spaces, you know, the advertising that we all see that runs on Google and Facebook and these big platforms, 80 to 90% of that revenue flows back offshore to enrich the Googles and the Facebooks of the world. And so what's so crazy is that in order to advertise your local business to people in this township or others, you're having to pay a company in California, you know, to do that for you. So instead of working collectively and instead of, you know, working with each other, we're enriching, we're building up a third big kind of colonial movement, which is to strip out the next big batch of our money and ownership to global corporations. So for me, that's like a really big thing. That's one of the main reasons why we need local businesses and township businesses to succeed. Because if we don't capture that spend ourselves, it's just going to flow out of the country and enrich the countries who are already rich. So we need to really work together as a country and as an economy to try to capture as much spending here as we can. Okay, so I work with big companies all the time. Some of our clients are people like Liberty Life or SA or Edgar's or these kind of guys. And they are using mostly suppliers who sit in Sandton, in the northern suburbs, etc. And why are they doing that? So basically, as I see it, there's kind of 4 big reasons why they're not dealing with you and they're not working with people in the townships. The first is information. And that's what I see Bulelani's team doing really well, is starting to surface what businesses are out there. Who are you? What can you do? What are your capabilities? There is an incredible lack of understanding and knowledge out there, even among black CEOs and very transformed businesses, about what they can get from local businesses in the townships, or anywhere actually. It's much easier for them to buy from, you know, companies that are in their own spaces. So that's the first thing. So I think what Bulelani and them are doing in terms of, you know, getting the information out, building directories is critical. The second is skills and technology. You know, one of the hardest problems you have if you're in a, you know, and a township, you're even kind of, I guess, luckier than in a rural area, is you don't necessarily have the skills and technology that they have in the fancy version of your business in Sandton or wherever, right? So, and I think, and so you've got to, you know, we've got to solve the problem of building up knowledge and of getting technology implemented so that you have the same access as everybody else. The area where I think is very unexplored, and this is a huge business opportunity for someone, and I'm not saying no one's doing this. I'm really not here to kind of be patronizing. I don't know who's doing this or all this or exactly what's going on, but I think where we've seen huge success in developing countries is in the sphere of virtual goods and services. Technology, internet-based stuff, whether it's providing services, whether it is building software, those are things which actually, you know, when the guy with the logistics company earlier spoke about assets, to get an asset like a truck is a very expensive thing to do. You can start programming today for free with a computer. Well, you need a computer. Other than that, the rest is free. The software is free. You can build whatever you need to build for nothing. What your obstacle there is knowledge, and your obstacle might be the computer. There are many, many NGOs and organizations investing in townships. The organizations that I speak to or that I know of that help young people get jobs, the kind of jobs they're trying to drive young people into is call center jobs, right? You know, call center jobs are not going to make us a vibrant, successful country. We don't want to answer the phone and tell people they need to pay their insurance premiums, and we think that that's some great achievement. And I think that's the problem. There are a lot of NGOs, their heart's in the right place, but they're creating basically dead-end jobs that do not enrich our lives and do not let us do meaningful work and do not let us really build value. So I'm not standing here saying, there we go, I've got a wand, I've made a software company in the townships. But to me, that's a much more interesting area to work in than making goods, which you need expensive factories and all kinds of equipment, which is much harder to get. The next is quality. The quality of things needs to be as good as what somebody can get everywhere else. We can't expect people to do business with us because they feel sorry for us or because they're trying to, and that world of like, the company spends 5% of its budget with companies that it doesn't really think have the right quality so they can feel better, right, about themselves. No, we feel better about ourselves because we gave 2 million rand to Township businesses. We don't want the 2 million, we want the 150 million. But to get that, we have to do work at the same quality that we can get, that they can get anywhere else. And once again, in a virtual space, you know, there are people who, if you're writing software, you're building virtual products, you're not going to have the same kind of quality things because you can benchmark yourself online and you don't need expensive tools to make stuff. So, but quality is a big thing. You know, when I was writing this, I was thinking, we've got to understand where the standard is. If you're making a broom and your broom is 10 times worse than the one that somebody's buying already and you have no idea about that, well then you're never going to be able to be successful unless someone feels sorry for you, and they're going to spend the least amount of money they can feeling sorry. And the last point is it builds up is trust. That's the most important thing we have to find. We have to find a way to build trust in businesses in this environment from the people with the money out there. And that is the job. That's really the central job that we have to try and do together as a country. So what I love about Join Us for Tea in this organization is that it's an organization that's about optimism and hope. We're not just sitting around complaining about how shit everything is and how we don't have anything and how government's corrupt and whatever. We're not actually talking about any of that, true or not. What we're actually talking about is what is the optimistic and hopeful outcome here? And that, I think, that's why I love the work that's being done here. And I think the truth is that in the townships you have more than you realize. Every client I talk to wants township residents as customers. They want to know what's going on in township culture because that's how they know they can influence people to work with them. You have actually something quite powerful here if you can figure out how to engage in a slightly different way with the people out there that have the money to spend. So I'm not presenting a whole lot of practical options today. I really just wanted to say, like, I think there's a lot of goodwill and there's a lot of intention and we're at the right point in our country where people are saying the right things. They want to support small business. We want to see people succeed. We need to do it ourselves. All of this is language that's familiar. And I think that what I'm really here to say is the way I see it from where I sit in an ad agency that deals with lots of big companies, there is a giant opportunity there for you guys to capture. And the work is really now about how to actually do that. So hopefully that's just a bit of insight and thoughts on my side.